Hello, welcome to my channel, The Hebrew Bible. This is Moses Gumadi, and in this video we'll talk about Satan or adversary in the Hebrew Tanakh. In the book of Numbers, chapter 22, verse 22, we read the word Satan, first time occurring in the Tanakh. In fact, this verse has been studied in our previous episode on the subject of the angel of the Lord. In particular about Balaam or Bilam and his donkey. Right, here we read that the angel of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary against him, against Bilam. Vayit yatsev malach Adonai baderech le Satan lo. So here we see the word Satan, Shin Tet Nun. Shin with, of course, a dot on the left side, which is pronounced sin. So Satan is the word which means adversary. Now, who is the adversary? The angel of the Lord is the adversary here. And so how do we deal with this question? Now let's read the next verse. Not right next verse. Actually, if you read 10 verses below in verse 32, here, the angel of the Lord said unto him, that is Bilam or Balaam, I went out to withstand thee. He says, Hinne anochi yatsati la Satan. I went to be an adversary to you, or I went to be an opponent to you, le Satan. That's the word he's using. And so, we need to first of all understand that this word primarily, basically means adversary, opponent, etc. And in fact, it was used for the angel of the Lord himself. And in fact, it was Balaam who was perverse. And so the angel of the Lord is the good guy, Balaam is the bad guy. And the good guy says to the bad guy, hey, I will be like a Satan to you, meaning I will be an adversary to you, right? I have gone like an adversary. I went out to be an adversary, or I went out to oppose you. Okay, that's the meaning. Now, does it mean that there is no individual called Satan? There is in the book of Job, for example. I think almost 14 times we read this particular word, Has-Satan. So the article with a he, right, is used in front of the Satan, and what it means is the adversary, a particular adversary, right? Here we read, Vayhi hayom vayavo'u beneha Elohim. So in that day, there came a day when the sons of God, came to present themselves, etc. Vayavo gam ha-Satan betocham. So among them came Satan, Has-Satan, the adversary. So the word is Has-Satan, right? A particular adversary. And he went along with the Bene Ha-Elohim, that is the sons of God. It doesn't say he was among the sons of God, but it says he went among them. Perhaps he is, it could be counted as one among them, or maybe not. It doesn't quite say that way in the text, but surely he went along with them. There's no doubt about that, as one among them, perhaps. Okay, now, the same figure also occurs in the book of Zechariah. These are the only two places where we find Has-Satan. In the book of Job, 14 times, and in the book of Zechariah, 3 times. We read here very interesting verses. In fact, there is also a verb Satan occurring here, which I'll show you like in a bit. So, Vayar eni et Yehoshua hakohen hagadol, that is Joshua, and he was shown, and he showed me Joshua the high priest, Yehoshua hakohen hagadol, right? There is a dagesh. Hakohen hagadol. Omed, standing lifne malach Adonai, he was standing before the malach Adonai, which is the angel of the Lord. Vehas-Satan omed al yemino lesitno. So Has-Satan, the adversary, the Satan, was standing upon the right hand, his right hand, to be a Satan or to resist him, to be an opponent to him or to be an adversary to him. So here we have the verb Satan, which means to resist or to oppose. And so you have both a noun Satan and a verb Satan. And the difference, of course, is in the vowel pointing here. When there is a kamatz, it's a noun. When there is a patach under the teth, then it is a verb. Okay? Right. Now these are the total number of occurrences of this word, or the root basically, in the Hebrew Bible. As I said previously, 17 times this individual figure, Has-Satan, that is a particular the adversary, who is found in the book of Job and in Zechariah, is mentioned 17 times, 14 plus 3 times. Whereas the word Satan in general without the article is mentioned 10 times, and then we have this verb occurring 6 times. The verb though doesn't occur exactly like this, but this is the root of the verb. But the verb can have its conjugation, etc. So you'll find it see lesitno, sitno. So there is a pronominal suffix here, and there is no patach here, as you can see. Therefore, this is not the word we are talking about. It's the same word, but it is conjugated, okay, in the word. It's a verbal form, a particular verbal form. So you will see some differences between the words in all these locations, but essentially that's the root word for Satan, which is it's a verb 6 times. Okay. Now, if we go back 10 times, as I said, Satan in general, generic Satan, which is an adversary, are listed here. And the first 2 times, in fact, this word Satan, the very first occurrence is in Numbers 22, as I said. This occurs twice in Numbers 22. And then it's applied to David, the sons of Zeruiah, adversary of Solomon, Hadad, Rezon, twice, adversary of Israel. I'll come to this one. This 1 Chronicle 21 bit is a bit interesting. And then adversary of David's adversary. It's a very interesting one. You can go and read Psalm 109 verse 6. Plus, there are additional, Psalm 109 has multiple verbs, Satan, plus a noun, Satan, in 109. So that's another passage which you can check. Now, as you can see here, these are generic adversaries. It could be anybody, right? And in fact, it could be even the angel of the Lord. So, let's come to this interesting occurrence. As I said, in 1 Chronicles 21:1, I said adversary of Israel. This adversary of Israel seems very interesting because we read here, Vaya Amod Satan al Yisrael. And Satan stood up against Israel. And what did he do? Vaya Set et David limnot et Israel. So he provoked, or he sort of persuaded, or he made him do that, right? What? To number Israel. So limnot, it comes from mem nun he. This is the root mana. Mene tekel ufarsin. If you remember from the book of Daniel, that the word mene comes from the same root mana. Limnot means to count Israel. So who provoked? Remember this word Vayaseth. We're going to come to that. Now there is a parallel passage in 2 Samuel 24 for this same incident. When Satan stood up against Israel and provoked David to number Israel. We read here, Vayosef af Adonai la haroth be Israel Vayaseth et David bahem lemor lech mene et Israel. So here it says, again the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he moved. Vayaseth, and he moved. We go back to the previous page. Here in 1 Chronicles 21, Vayaseth means he provoked. Who provoked? Here it says Satan provoked. Here it says, and he moved, or he provoked, or he, instigated. Who? It says, Af Adonai, means anger of the Lord. Now, so did the Lord provoke David or Satan provoke David? But one thing is very clear. So I think these two verses have been very controversial. Now people start have asked questions like, hey, who caused David to number? Is it the Lord or is it Satan or both? Now, one thing I can tell you is that this occurrence here, Satan, doesn't come with a article hey. That is, it is not has Satan. We're not talking about that particular individual in Job and in Zechariah at least. So this word is a generic adversary. So we have to just guess who that adversary is. Is it the Lord himself is being an adversary to the children of Israel because of whatever they may have done wrongly, and he moved David to do something for which he would be punished? Quite possible. There is nothing wrong with it, because we see we'll see that in fact in Numbers 22 the angel of the Lord himself was standing up as an adversary, Le Satan, against the wicked Bilam. In fact, Bilam said, can I go? He said initially no, and later on he said again, second time, can I go? Then he said, okay, go. And then while he was going, he stood in the way and became an adversary. So that means that there is some problem with Bilam, and he was trying to be perverse. We read in verse 32, his ways were perverse before the angel of the Lord. So coming back to Vayaseth, it means he moved. The same verb, this verb root is sooth, that is to move or to pursue. So not the English sooth with a THE, but to move or to pursue. Not pursue, to persuade or to instigate, etc. Right. Now, what I wanted to show you is that even this Satan, the Has Satan, also does the same thing. And so let's see how he does the Satan. In the book of Job, we read about this, and I'm showing you the English text to compare, so that if I put Hebrew text for all of these, it becomes a lot. So I just put in a few verses here. Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear God for naught? Is he just fearing God for nothing? You have made a hedge around him and secured him all around, blessed his work, etc. If you put forth your hand, right, and touch all that he has, he will curse to your face. That's what he said. And the Lord said to Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power, right? Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So when Satan says, you put your hands, Satan cannot do anything. This Satan, Has Satan, cannot do anything without getting permission from God. It's very clear. And therefore, if anything he does, God has to do it. Put forth thine hand. And then when the Lord allows, he says, okay, go ahead and do it. But he says, put not forth thine hand upon the man himself. But the rest of it you can do. So what it implies is that the Lord does it, but he is getting it done by this guy. Right? So that's how it is working. Now, in the next chapter, in Job 2:3, the Lord speaks to Satan. Have you considered, again, similar words like as in the first chapter. Have you considered my servant Job? There is none like him on the earth, a perfect man, etc. One that fears God, eschews evil, and still holds fast his integrity. Although you moved me against him. Vathesitheni. So the same verb, suth, is the root from which this comes, thesitheni. That is, you moved me against him. To do what? To destroy him without cause. So, who is moving who? We said earlier that Satan moved David. Right? Now, what is Satan doing here? The Lord himself says, you moved me against Job. To do what? To destroy him without cause. So the question, does God get moved by Satan to do what he says, whatever? No. Yes and no. Okay, what is the yes? The yes is, it appears for Satan and for Job as though the Lord has moved against Job to destroy him without cause. Now, please put an emphasis on this one, without cause. Now, Satan thinks it's without cause. Obviously, he was a righteous person. And there was nothing in his earthly life that he had that could be pointed out as being the cause of all his sufferings. And therefore, that way it appears it is without cause. So does it appear for Job as also to Satan. In fact, Job says in chapter 9 that you are punishing me without cause. Same phrase, without cause occurs in Job chapter 9. And so, the Satan does indeed move, as though he moves means he tries to instigate God to act against Job as though without cause. But there is a cause. So God doesn't get moved by Satan. If God acts, God has his own reasons for doing that. Although the other fellow might think that he is doing his bidding, but he is not doing Satan's bidding. Rather, he is doing his own thing for a reason which the other fellow doesn't know. So what could be that reason? That's, of course, outside of the subject that we're dealing with. However, if you read Job 38, 39, 40, those chapters where the Lord answers Job, also the words of Elihu, we can get some clues on what is happening. But certainly the reasons, causes are beyond Job's life. But there are causes and there are reasons for which God has done, which of course Satan does not know, neither does Job know about it. Okay, so this is the sooth, to move, to persuade, which of course means that what happens is somebody moves or somebody persuades. This means that it is happening in the mind, right? Satan persuaded David to count. So, like, did he appear to him and said, hey, go ahead and do it? Even if somebody physically comes and tells you, it's a mental thing, isn't it? Once the thought is planted, whether visibly or whether invisibly, whether you heard it in the TV or you heard it in the radio or saw in the internet, you watched a YouTube video, or you read something on the billboard, it doesn't matter. You get some thought, or maybe some random thought. It popped into your head and then you acted upon it or did not act upon it, whereas you should have, etc. So it is a mental thing. It happens in the mind. And therefore David owns up to his actions. Later on in 2 Samuel 24, he says, Chatati me'od, I have sinned greatly, by counting or by numbering the children of Israel. And so even though he was moved, he could have resisted the thought and he could have not done it. Right? In fact, there was, in David's case, there was Joab who actually tried to dissuade the king from doing it. He said, why do you want to do it? He said, but David's word prevailed, we read. And therefore, David made a mistake. And for this reason and for many other reasons, right, the Jewish scholars in Talmud and elsewhere, Talmud it is written, they consider this word Satan to be a reference to the evil inclination that is within man. Okay? Evil inclination. The evil inclination that will succumb to certain thoughts or certain suggestions contrary to the will of God. Okay, that's the evil inclination. So the idea is that man has both good inclination and evil inclination, which is called Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara. It says, Hu Satan, Hu Yetzer Hara, Hu Malacham Mavet. So this is Satan, this is the Yetzer Hara, that is evil inclination, and this is the angel of death. They are all one, he says. That's the opinion of the Jewish scholars, and many people have actually put forward this kind of an suggestion, which sort of, it's a good explanation. It works for me. Of course, we're only talking from the perspective of the Hebrew Bible. So in the end, essentially, we have three words. Satan, a generic adversary. Has-Satan, a particular person. Nothing cosmic or well, I mean, you can say cosmic, but he's not too great as people make him to be. Some people think that the Satan is like almost equal to God, but a little bit less. In the end, God will prevail. So, but he is a massive force, of course. But even in the New Testament, we read, resist the devil and he will flee from you. So it's Yetzer Hara. Satan, even the Satan cannot work. He works through the evil inclination. He works through the evil inclination of others as well. Somebody might come and hit. Of course, in Job's case, he has caused evil. He has caused disease. He has caused calamities and all that stuff. That is quite possible because there is a particular person involved called Ha-Satan. But Satan in general, the opponent we have, is the evil inclination. And that brings us to the question as to why did God create the evil inclination, or why did this come about? Of course, the answer is at the Garden of Eden. You might say, but what caused Eve to be attracted to that fruit of the knowledge of the tree of the tree of good, the knowledge of good and evil? And God, of course, it was God who created the tree of the knowledge of good and evil and the fruit from it. And therefore, so why did God create that? I think the answer they gave, which is a good answer, is that if you only have good inclination and no evil inclination, you would be like robotic, meaning you have a certain nature and you just go do according to your own nature and instinct. There is nothing good or bad about it, right? Whereas if you have both and you're given a commandment, then you can exercise your free will to choose good and reject bad, choose life and reject death. That's what God has given, our ability to make a choice and act upon it, especially the moral choices, and reject evil inclination. That ability man has, which is why to test that, God has put this evil inclination, and our duty is, of course, to overcome it. And that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe to my channel. Click the bell icon and please do comment. And I will see you again in the next video. Thank you very much.